Hello and welcome to the Flix Forum podcast, where each episode we go back and we look at a Netflix original film in the order of release. Today we have Netflix's 364th film from 2021. It's the Turkish comedy drama called Have You Ever Seen Fireflies? I'm going to try this. See how we go. And in Turkish, it's Sen Hiç Ateşböceği Gördün. It's directed by Andac Hazedaroglu and stars Yilmaz Erdogan, Erkek, and Engin Alkan. I'm Jesse, I am your host. Sorry, I tried a little bit of Turkish. Hopefully that didn't sound too bad. But we are here to discuss this film. Have you ever seen Fireflies? So if you haven't seen this film and you're interested in checking it out, give us a pause and come back a little bit later on because we will spoil this as we go. We do start the show with the Fast Flicks, where we do a quick little summary of what the film is all about. So this one, it's pretty much covers the life or the journey of a woman in Turkey who's struggling with politics, personality, and loneliness. So it is more of a drama than a comedy would be my interpretation of this film. What can we find out about this film? Why is it on Netflix? What's some information about it? In, I guess, some translations around the world. In French, it's The Secret of Fireflies, and in Polish, it's The Light of Fireflies. So obviously, the idea of fireflies plays a very important part in this film and what the film and the message that this film is trying to say too. This film, it is based on a play written by Yilmaz Erdogan, and Erdogan began writing this play while he was serving at the Air Force Academy. The show actually performed for the first time on the 23rd of January 1999 at the Beşiktaş Cultural Centre in Istanbul. Erdogan was given a day's leave to step away from the Air Force to attend the premiere. So that's a nice little story there too. The original cast had 17 people in it, and during its run in Istanbul, it was staged 97 times from its premiere till the 23rd of May 1999. By 2002, in August of 2002, the writer, Erdogan, had stated that the play had been seen by over 1 million people. So this story is probably a very recognised, very acknowledged story in Turkey. So that's probably where the target audience for this film is. This did hit Netflix worldwide on the 9th of April 2021. It had 3 nominations at the Avaki Gazette TV Star Awards, one for Best Movie, one for Best Actress for Ecem, Erkek, and one for Best Director as well. So possibly pretty well received in Turkey. What else are the critics and audiences saying about this film? On Rotten Tomatoes, it only has one review. That review is rotten from critics, so no consensus there. Audience, on the other hand, super positive. It sits at 82%. That's on less than 50 ratings, but very, very positive. There is nothing on Metacritic for this film, but IMDb, it sits at a 6.2 out of 10 on 5,800 ratings, and on Letterboxd, it sits at a 2.9 out of 5 on nearly 5,000 ratings, but has been logged by nearly 10,000 people. So fairly positive, like close to 3 on a Letterboxd, more than 6 on IMDb. That's very positive recognition for this film. What are my thoughts, or my early thoughts on this film? It's got some very sweet moments, but I really struggled with the inability to understand a lot of the cultural and historical references, as well as the humour not really landing. So I can understand if this film makes sense to you because you're from Turkey. I'm an outsider, so for me, the struggle in trying to work out what was going on was probably a little bit too much and took away from some of the enjoyment in the film. But the characters in the film, let's talk about the characters. So Gülseren is our main character. This is her film. We are introduced as the audience to her at the start of the film as an older woman, and the film flashes back from her birth right through to back where we are now, and her sitting there being interviewed about her life. Very interesting cat would be what I'd describe. She's super confident in herself and is not afraid to be herself. She's not afraid to be the outsider. She's not afraid to stand up for what she believes in or say what she thinks or be the class clown in the classroom or the person who stands up to her family when they're trying to uphold cultural values, and does have this fascination with fireflies, and we'll probably talk about those a little bit later on. The other female character in this film that we see the most probably is Iqbal, who is Gülseren's mother. This is a mother who despises her. She calls her daughter crazy whenever she can, and she wants her to never mention or bring up that idea of fireflies, and believes that this is a part of her delusions. She blames her daughter at various stages throughout the film for all of her own troubles, and it's a very toxic relationship that she has with her mother. Whereas, on the other hand, her father, Nazif, he's her best friend because he's fine with her being herself. He's supportive and he's a really sweet character too. However, he struggles, and I guess all the people around Gulseren, they struggle at some stage, and her dad struggles with bad business decisions. And I think he was trying to sell silverberries at one moment, and then he's trying to sell salt, and this leads to like a downfall for him almost, where he has a reliance on alcohol and a sad ending for him as well. The next closest person to Gulseren, so I guess I'm talking about the characters in relation to her, is Zet, and that's, I guess, almost her best friend, but it's her auntie. She's a cool auntie or a cool relative. She always seems to laugh at Gulseren's behaviour or supports her right up until, unfortunately, she has to leave, which really upsets Gulseren as well because she's in an arranged marriage, so that's a little sad thing as well. The last two characters I'll mention, Hazim and Kursat. They are both uncles, and Hazim is the uncle who is constantly locked up in prison for his political beliefs, and he's really just this metaphor for fighting against the political oppression at the time, whereas Kursat is the other uncle who stands in for almost a religious metaphor, and both these uncles argue with each other a lot about their thoughts and their beliefs, and I'm not sure they necessarily worked, to be honest. The director, let's talk about the director, Andac Hazedaroglu. She has 21 directing credits. That's quite a lot of credits. A lot of TV, a lot of shorts, and only one work after this film called My Father's Violin. So interesting, maybe a big name in Turkey that I'm just not aware of. The scenes, let's talk about some scenes. What are some scenes that stood out? What are some ones that didn't work? So the ones that stood out for me, Servet, he's this guy, I didn't mention him in the characters because he's in it for one scene, but he's this guy who is going to be arranged marriage to Gulseren, and they have this big family meeting, and he can't remember his middle name. And through this discussion, there's a big blow up. Gulseren scares his family off. They all leave, and then he walks back into the room, and everyone's really angry. And he says, "I remember my middle name," and as if Gulseren's dad tells him to F off. That was really good comedic timing. That was funny. There's a scene where Gulseren and her dad, he's passing away, and he's almost like a firefly ghost, and he's telling her that she's not crazy, he's always going to be by her side. A very nice emotional touch. We flash to Gulseren in the 1980s at one stage, like the get-rich 1980s, where she's got makeup on, she's dressed up nicely to go to an interview. She's so nervous in this interview, keeps making jokes. That was a little bit repetitive, and she's got no qualifications for this job. She can't typewrite, she can't, she hasn't done anything that would make her, qualified for this job that he's offering. But the interview finishes, and he's like, "I'm going to give you the job because you made me laugh for the first time in 15 years. That was funny." And then they talk about his facial muscles not working. That was also funny too. There was this little love story with this Dundar character. It was cute again, but he was taken away too quickly. And the final argument between Gulseren and her mother, with her mother ranting about her being a punishment from God for her, and that she was born insane. And Gulseren finally bites back and tells her to shut up, and that her mother doesn't have a heart and she wants her to die. I thought that was a really impactful scene to finish on too. Things that didn't work. So Gulseren gets expelled from school at the start as a child, and the principal sits there with Gulseren, her dad, and the two teachers that really don't like her. And the principal says this is the most important day in his career, expelling her, and the teachers sit there and clap. Just was not funny. I thought that was weird. Gulseren comes home from being expelled from this interview with her dad and the teachers, and her mother just chases her around the house before she goes outside to see these fireflies and just dances with them. That was a little bit lame. Gulseren's midwife, so we see her at the start, she comes back later to arrange this marriage to that Servet guy I was mentioning before, and to get her out of the house, Gulseren makes up some silly story about showing breasts that just went on and just wasn't funny. And then that whole arranged family meeting, that Servet guy, that just went on. There was like some joke about correcting each other's names, and it was just crap. And then Gulseren's big elaborate story about being divorced to scare them off, that was also rubbish as well. That Uncle Kursat guy, he does some ridiculous ceremony to try and work out why Gulseren is so crazy, with things like spitting, getting her to spit into a bowl. That was just lame. And the whole mini scene with this Valley guy, it was like, here's a love interest coming along for her, and then in the same scene he gets shot and dies. And I mean, it shows out, I guess it's there to show how much trauma Gulseren had throughout her life, but you could almost remove that scene and it wouldn't have impacted the film. Finally, Gulseren does say that she got married for 8.5 months to this butcher, and then she returns home to her mother, all beat up. She's got a black eye, and her mum asks, "Why are you back home?" And she's like, "Because I get beaten." And the mum's response is, "What's the big deal?" It just wasn't played with any niceness or any empathy at all. I just didn't like it. And then they tried to do a little follow-up, a tiny little follow-up later in the film where the mum sits with her and says, did it hurt when he beat you? And then it just, instead of staying on that and saying, okay, she's actually caring as a mother, it just goes into this rant against the Fireflies that the mother doesn't like again. Just didn't work. Wasn't done really nicely. Anyway, let's keep moving. Themes, ideas. What's this film trying to say? Big commentary on the restriction on women in society from the past, or the expectations almost for them. That, you know, we've spoken about arranged marriage, the idea of being a woman is a punishment in this society. That was a little bit sad. The political unrest and fascism in Turkey and the communist ideas. I hate to say it, but for me, these were the most disengaging moments of the film, just because like I have a bit of knowledge about history. I do have a little bit of knowledge of history, but there were newspaper clipping cuts in between scenes to inform the audience of what was going on as these events were happening to Gulseren, and I found it too hard to keep track. The film does play on that idea through Gulseren of loss and challenges and loneliness too, but also being yourself and not being afraid to be different, because the other side of this is that unfortunately intelligent people get punished in this society, because Gulseren, I feel like she is a very intelligent person and isn't given the opportunity in this society to be herself. Finally, I think one last thing we've got to talk about is Fireflies. They're in the title. Have you ever seen Fireflies? And it's a question. It is a question. Have you seen them? Because I think they represent in this film that idea of optimism, or seeing things that other people don't see, or could relate to happiness when things in the world around you are so bad that you can see the happiness, or you can see things that other people can't see. So I really feel like they could have played on that idea a lot more throughout the film too. All right, what did I take away from this film? I think the actress who plays Gulseren, Erkek, it's not like a lot of films where you'll see a child actor play a child version when they're a child. She plays Gulseren throughout all stages of her life. So when she's at school, she looks way too old to be a student. There's like a scene in the classroom where she's standing up in front of the class with the teacher. It just looks so weird. And then especially when we're seeing her as an older lady at the end, the makeup and the grey wig, it just was really bad, and it just took away a little bit from the film. But good effort from Erkek to perform the whole film almost. All right, some questions, some pondering, just a couple little things. The idea, we start off, this is the retelling of Gulseren's story through an interviewer. Like, why has she been chosen by the interviewer to tell her story? The idea, I guess, is that it's a viral video, possibly. Like, he's there to get her to do the math that she can do in her head and put it online, possibly. And then she just takes the opportunity to tell her story. Is that what it's all about? I'm a little bit confused. I'm not sure. I'm not sure why he sat around that whole time once he got what he wanted. Interesting. And the other thing, about the Fireflies. We've got to talk about the Fireflies. Aunt Azette and Gulseren's father, Nazif, they actually see the Fireflies, as well as that love interest at the end. So apart from Gulseren, there's 3 other people in the film that can see Fireflies. Or do they just say they can see them to support her, to make her happy, to make her feel comfortable, to make her feel welcome? It's a question I've got. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if they actually could see them. So interesting thing to leave on, because I'm ready to wrap this one up. We do give the film a rating out of 5 stars. So for me, I think I felt a little bit removed from this film because of the internal Turkish references throughout. It just took me away a little bit. This might play really well for a Turkish audience, and obviously it has as a stage show, but I just couldn't get into this film that was almost like vignettes of a woman's life that didn't make me laugh in what was supposed to be a comedy. And the whole idea of that firefly, it needed to be played on more and add some more positivity to this story as well, because other than that, it's a very tough life that Gulseren's had to lead. I'm giving this a 2 out of 5, so not a woeful score, but a 2 out of 5 for me. We are on socials. We have Instagram, we have Facebook, and we have X, formerly known as Twitter. Jump on there for me to give us some feedback and let us know what you're thinking. But the question for social this week is the idea, and this is a quote that the YouTuber or the vlogger says at the end, is being baffled easier than understanding? And that's in relation to Gulseren and her life. Like, as an audience, is it easier to be baffled by her story than actually understanding who she is? I'd love to actually understand who she was and understand why everyone rejected her so much. I'd love a bit more of that. That would be, just to see her with a happy ending would have been nice. So anyway, what are your thoughts on that quote? We are back next week with another international film from 2020. This one is the South Korean neo-noir crime called Night in Paradise. This one's directed by Park Hong-jung and stars Tae-gu, Jeon Yeo Bin and Cha Seung Wong. So give that one a watch if you can. I'm excited. I generally like South Korean films, so this could be a good one to get on board for. Please give us a good rating on whatever podcast platform you're listening to us from. And as always, thanks for joining me. I'll see you next week.